Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in the world on the 5th of May of 2026. Today we have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict in Ukraine. And according to the current situation, we are just several hours before we understand and we find out whether the Ukrainians are going to attack the city of Moscow in the Red Square during the 9th of May, during the Victory Day that the Russians celebrate every year. And we are about just several hours before we understand whether the Russians are going to use the Oreshnik system to attack the central part of Kiev. So why is that? I would like to remind you that just yesterday the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation announced the 9th of May ceasefire. It's not. This is going to be not just a 9th of May ceasefire. This is going to be a ceasefire on May 8th and 9th of 2026 in honor of the celebration of the Soviet people's victory in the Great Patriotic War. And later, during the same post, more precisely, the Russians emphasized that they noted statements that were made by the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, in Yerevan, and he stated that he threatened to strike Moscow specifically on May 9th. And the Russians warned the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, that if he does it, then the Russians will attack the central part of the city of Kiev and most likely using the Oreshnik system. And when the Russians issued this ultimatum, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, responded with another ultimatum, and he stated that Ukraine announced a ceasefire starting from 12 a.m. on the night of May between 5th and the 6th of May of 2026. So according to this statement, according to this announcement, a ceasefire, the Ukrainian ceasefire will start just within the next several hours, which means that at 12 a.m. or maybe at 1 a.m. of the 6th of May of 2026, we will understand everything. Because if Russians carry out a massive attack between the 5th and the 6th of May, or during the morning of the 6th of May of 2026, then most likely the Ukrainians will reject the Russian ultimatum and the Russian proposal to establish a ceasefire during the 8th and the 9th of May, which means that during either 8th or 9th of May of 2026, the Ukrainians, using hundreds of drones, will attack the city of Moscow or any other town or city of the Russian Federation. And of course, if it happens, then the Russians will attack the central part of the city of Kiev. If you ask my opinion, I believe that the Russians will reject the Ukrainian proposal regarding the ceasefire starting from the 6th of May, because if the Russians accept this ceasefire, first of all, they need to announce this, and they will announce this, and they will use the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation for these purposes. As of the evening of the 5th of May of 2026, as of the moment when I started making this video, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation neither rejected or published anything on this matter. We believe that the Russians decided to ignore the proposal and the ultimatum that was issued by the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, due to massive strikes that the Ukrainians carried out during the previous 24 hours. The Ukrainians used hundreds of drones to attack deep inside of the territory of the Russian Federation just 12 hours before the beginning of the Ukrainian one-sided ceasefire. This is the first map that was published during the previous 24 hours. This is the second one, and as you can see, dozens of missiles in the direction of the central, northern, southern, and eastern parts of the Russian Federation. The Minister of Defense of Russia made lots of statements on this matter. During the previous 24 hours, around 600 drones and several cruise missiles of the armored forces of Ukraine were destroyed over the territory of Russia. But despite the numbers that were provided by the Minister of Defense, we have updates that some missiles or drones of the armored forces of Ukraine managed to hit targets across Russia. For example, today we received a report that the Ukrainians, as a result of attack, damaged, or maybe even not destroyed, but probably damaged a power station on the territory of the city of Orenburg. And this is the video of consequences of attack. As you can see, a black smoke over the settlement of Orenburg. Furthermore, the Ukrainians, according to information we have, according to media, attacked the settlement of Cheboksary. As for this territory, the Ukrainians were attacking military facilities and plants that the Russians are using for military purposes. In this video, we can see the moments when the Ukrainians attacked this facility, probably with the missile. Here we have another video, probably the same episode but from another angle. The Ukrainians using missiles attack this facility, and here we can see a fire. Here we have more videos on this matter, and here we have a picture with explosion, and for example here we have a video of how Ukrainians using drones attacked a building in the central part of the city. So, summarizing everything that happened during the previous 24 hours, telling the truth, I'm making a conclusion that most likely the Russians will reject the Ukrainian ultimatum, and most likely the Russians will continue hostilities till the 8th of May of 2026. Which means that now Zelensky is trapped, because if the Russians reject the Ukrainian ultimatum, this means that Zelensky doesn't have any other option but to attack the territory of Russia during the 8th and the 9th of May of 2026. As for this situation, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation stated and warned the civilian population of Kiev and employees of foreign diplomatic missions of the need to leave the city promptly. As for the foreign diplomacies, they still haven't made any announcement or any notification through the city of Kiev to evacuate embassies and so on, which means that the European countries still have a hope that the Russians will accept the ultimatum that was issued by Zelensky yesterday in the evening. But something tells me that the Russians aren't gonna do this. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians also were attacking the territory of Ukraine using hundreds of drones. The Minister of Defense of Ukraine stated that first the Russians used 89 drones during the day. The next day, the Russians used additional 175 days. So as you can see, the Russians also used hundreds of drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. And during the previous day, we received lots of updates on this matter. For example, the Russians attacked the city of Chernihiv, and we have a video on this matter. Here we can see a building that was damaged by the Russians and a black smoke over this construction. So a government office, according to media, was damaged by Russians. Furthermore, we have updates that the Russians were attacking the Poltava region, and as for this territory, the sources stated that the Russians attacked some gas facility on the territory of this region, and this explosion was recorded. This is exactly the facility that was damaged by the Russians as a result of Iskander attack. Furthermore, the Russians were attacking the Dnipro region. As for this territory, we have just fire that's raised over the settlement of Arilska, and here we have a few oil station or oil base or something like this. Furthermore, lots of explosions were recorded in the area of the city of Zaporizhzhia, and lots of explosions were recorded around the city of Odessa. For example, in these pictures, we can see the consequences of attack. Russian armed forces struck the kernel terminal, where an attack resulted in a leak of over 1,100 tons of oil. So these are the consequences of the overnight attack that was carried out by Russians between the 4th and the 5th of May of 2026. As we can see, the Ukrainians suffer huge losses, financial losses first of all. Furthermore, explosions were recorded in the area of the city of Kharkiv. As for this settlement, we have a video that confirms that the Russians attacked a railway station, and as a result of attack, several trains were completely destroyed. Probably these are trains with fuel or with oil that the Ukrainians were deploying in the direction of the city of Kharkiv. So lots of explosions were recorded also in the territory of the city of Belgrade. So too many explosions just several hours before the beginning of the Ukrainian ceasefire. And all these things signal and tell us just about one thing, that most likely no ceasefire will see between the 6th and the 9th of May of 2026, which means that the Russians once again are going to use the Oreshnik system. And probably this is going to be a third attempt from the Russian side, a third time when the Russians are going to use this system. And according to the Russian sources and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, this time the Russians are going to use the Oreshnik system in the central part of the city of Kiev, which will lead to massive destructions, and this is obviously. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. We have lots of very interesting updates. And first, as you can see, we were going to talk about the Sumy direction, where the Russians managed to improve their positions in the area of the settlement of Krasnopolye, and where the Ukrainians published a video from the area of the settlement of Miropolye. We have already discussed the video from the area of the city of Miropolye, and pro-Ukrainian sources stated that the Russians published a fake video, not a fake video, that the Russians published fake updates, that they managed to establish complete control over the settlement, and the Ukrainians published this video where we can see at least two different videos from different places. In this video, in particular this episode, we can see three Ukrainians that were raising the Ukrainian flag, and that they were saying that by the end of the 4th of May of 2026, the settlement of Miropolye remained under complete control of the armed forces of Ukraine. As for this video, I would like to point your attention to several details. First of all, I would like to point your attention to this window. As you can see, this window has blue parts, and when talking about this window also has blue parts. Furthermore, another important detail, we have some light material around windows, from the left and from the right side. So this video, the Ukrainians claims that this video, this exactly episode, was made in the area of the settlement of Miropolye, and later pro-Ukrainian sources published, for example, the next episode, where we can see, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the same place but from another angle, a video made by drone. So there is a very important detail. During the previous video, I pointed your attention on the colors of windows, and as you can see, as for this angle, the left side of the building has blue windows, and the right side of the buildings has white windows. So according to the previous video, both sides had blue windows, which means that probably this is not the same place. And the second thing, I pointed your attention to this light thing around the window. As you can see, this light material goes from the bottom almost till the end of the window, from the right and from the left side. But as for this episode, we see that this light material goes only on the bottom. So which means that these two episodes were made completely from different places, and maybe this video, this episode was made right exactly in the village of Miropolye, but we don't know for sure when exactly this episode was made. Maybe a month ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we don't know. Maybe before the Russians established complete control over the settlement. As for this episode, probably this is a fresh video. Maybe this episode was made a day ago or maybe 2 days ago, but probably not on the territory of the city of Miropolye. So that is why we decided not to change anything in the area of Miropolye, and we decided to keep the territory as is, because as of now we don't have strong proofs that the settlement of Miropolye was recaptured by the Ukrainians or remained under complete Ukrainian control. As for the Krasnopolye direction, during the previous 24 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded. The Russians, according to information we have, managed to improve their position significantly in this area, and it seems that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will announce complete control over the settlement of Ryasne. We have lots of videos of how convoys of Russian vehicles and troops were entering the settlement of Ryasne and were continuing advancing further in the western direction, and the Ukrainians were attacking Russians with FPV drones. So based on this video, we have adjusted the map, and now we see that the Russians managed to create a very powerful foothold on the Ukrainian side of the border, and from these four settlements, the settlement of Ryasne, Taratutina, Novodmitrievka and Pokrovka, the Russians most likely will continue offensive operation with the purpose to outflank and to encircle the settlement of Krasnopolye, to attack this village from the northeast, from the north, from the east, from the southeast, and of course from the south. The settlement of Krasnopolye is a very big city in the direction of the city of Sumy, and if Russians take this settlement under complete control, first of all, they will be able to enter this big forest and they will be able to continue advancing further, and from these positions the Russians will be able to concentrate lots of units, several brigades probably, and using these 2 or 3 brigades the Russians will continue offensive operation further in the direction of N12 road and in the direction of the southeastern parts of the Sumy agglomeration towards the settlement of by the name of Verkhnya Syrovatka. Now let's move further. and let's talk about the Slaviansk direction. During the previous 48 hours, the most important updates we received exactly from this area. Let's discuss everything in details, and first let's talk about the northern Slaviansk direction. These days, the Russians have improved their position significantly along the river of Seversky Donetsk. The Russians have captured lots of villages, lots of territories according to different sources. We have a lots of geolocations and updates on this matter. For example, this is the situation by the end of the 4th of May of 2026. We just received updates that the Russians captured the northeastern part of Tyanovka and the eastern part of Prishep, and today we received the report that the Russians managed to establish almost complete control over these territories, not just over these settlements, but the Russians captured this dense network of the fortifications on the Ukrainian side of the river. Most likely from these positions, the Russians will continue clashes for the settlements of Svetogorsk and Tyanovka. The Russians will continue offensive operation towards the settlement of Sidorova. Most likely the Russians will finish the battle for Studionak, and Russians will try to establish complete control over the settlement of Bogorodichne. So if Russians finish everything they are tasked for, most likely in coming days, maybe weeks, we will adjust the map like this. So everything in this area would be colored as the territories under complete Russian control. From these positions, the Russians will try to establish complete control over these big forests where the Russians will concentrate their troops and forces, and they will protect them against Ukrainian FPV drones. From these positions, the Russians would try to take under complete control these big forests to the north of the settlement of Slaviansk. And if Russians can take these three big forests under complete control, then most likely the Ukrainians would have no chances to save control over the Slaviansk Kostiantynivka agglomeration. And this is exactly what the Russians are tasked for, to break through Ukraine's defense and to take under complete control this strategic position between the cities of Slaviansk and Izum. At the same time, the Russians continue their offensive operation to the south of the settlement of Liman. We have changes on the ground as well. And the most important thing is that today pro-Russian sources published this video where we can see Russian soldiers that were making a statement from the territory of the settlement of Piskunovka, and during the second part of the video we can see the settlement itself, and we can see an episode with the Russian soldier that was waving the Russian flag. Here we can see another episode from the same village. So based on this video we have adjusted the map. The Russians managed to cross the river of Seversky Donetsk and to outflank positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in the area of the settlements of Kriva Luka and Raya Alexandrovka. From these positions, the Russians will continue offensive towards the settlement of Starodubovka. The Russians will continue offensive towards the settlement of Raya Alexandrovka, and Russians can attack the Ukrainians in Kriva Luka from behind. So if the information about the settlement of Piskunovka is correct, then we can say that the front line in the eastern Slavian direction collapsed completely. But at the same time, pro-Ukrainian sources are saying that this is a fake video. So the pro-Ukrainian sources are saying that this is an AI soldier, so that his movements are unrealistic and this is not a real person. This is an AI soldier that was generated by something like this. So these are the statements from the Ukrainian side. Probably they're trying to explain, or they're trying to probably to make us believing that the situation is stable in this area and that the settlement of Piskunovka is under complete Ukrainian control. Of course, telling the truth, maybe this is also an option, and of course we need to wait to understand what exactly is happening in this area, because if the Russians indeed capture the settlement of Piskunovka, most likely in coming days we'll see lots of changes on the ground in this area in the Russian favor. As for the city of Kostiantynivka, during the day we haven't received anything from this area, but right before we started making this video, several sources stated about another breakthrough in this area, and most likely tomorrow we will adjust the map. Before the next video we will color additional micro districts or several streets under complete control of the armored forces of the Russian Federation. As of the end of the 5th of May, without these additional changes, the Russians control up to 28% of the city of Kostiantynivka. Tomorrow, most likely, this number would be changed probably to 29 or 30% of the city. As for the Zaporizhzhia direction, during the previous day, we haven't received almost anything. So we still continue receiving almost no updates from this area. We know for sure that there are very heavy clashes, that the Ukrainians counter-attack in the western Zaporizhzhia direction, that the Russians continue their attacks through the eastern Zaporizhzhia direction, but as you can see, we have no changes, which means that both the Russians and the Ukrainians are trying to keep the situation about this area in a secret, but most likely during the 7th or 8th of May of 2026, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will publish lots of videos with the Russian flags raised through the entire line of combat contact. I think that we will have lots of videos on this matter. Probably the same thing the Ukrainians will publish as well. Most likely they have prepared lots of videos with Ukrainian flags also. And that's it for today. The Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.